All right, so good morning, everybody. It's wonderful to see either virtually your name or your face. It's good to see you. My name is Brian Treese. I'm the Program Director for Community and Organizational Development and Evaluation at the Community Foundation. On behalf of all of us, thank you for attending today's Zoom call with Cathy Huffman and others from Marathon Petroleum Corporation. A few basics for this Zoom call. We have a big group today. We have 61 people who registered for this call. We will be recording it for those who are unable to attend. Again, for those who are newer, to help with bandwidth, if you aren't a speaker, if you wouldn't mind turning off your camera and muting yourself, that helps us and gives us the chance to have the best bandwidth possible. Next, if for some reason we get disconnected for any reason, gotta love technology, who knows? If we do, we'll just all come back and join again. If you have questions with such a large group, Cathy and her team will be stopping multiple points. Feel free to unmute yourself and chime in. If for some reason you're less comfortable doing that, don't hesitate to use the chat box. If you don't see the chat box, it's one of the menu options at the bottom of the Zoom screen. It may be under more with 3 dots, or it may show up automatically. So feel free to use questions there. At the very end, we'll have open time to chat. So at the end of the session, I will give some basics on how we're going to try to manage that to the best of our ability.
Volume good.
With that, on behalf of the Findlay-Hancock County Community Foundation, it is my pleasure to introduce Cathy Huffman and the team from Marathon Petroleum Corporation. Marathon has been a huge supporter of our community and the nonprofits here for many, many years. We appreciate them taking the time to talk to us all today about the Marathon Foundation, their new online grant application form, MPC's corporate social responsibility priority areas, as well as Marathon's giving and volunteer program. So join me in welcoming Cathy, Ashley, Jaime, Karen, and Lori.
Good morning, everyone. This is Cathy Huffman. Thank you so much for the great introduction there, Brian. Certainly appreciate your connection and your partnership as well. I want to take a moment before we get started to introduce the Marathon team that we have on the line. I know a lot of the names and the faces that I'm seeing, and I'm assuming that this group is familiar to you as well, but I would like to take a moment just to introduce everybody. First of all, I am Cathy Huffman. I serve as Community Investment Manager for Marathon. You might have known me from my prior world. I was with Cooper Tire for 33 years, but joined Marathon about a year ago now. I just celebrated my 1-year anniversary. So excited to continue what we were already doing in the community from a bigger and brighter perspective. So it's been a great opportunity for me. I want to introduce the rest of my team. First of all, Ashley Goecke, who will also be presenting today. Ashley's been with the company, I believe, about 9 years. She can give you a little bit more information when she begins speaking, but she is handling our employee giving program. She manages that. She was here from the day we got it started and is here to answer questions. And she's also working on a lot of enhancements. You know, we appreciate feedback, so this is a great meeting where we can learn what maybe is working well, what's not working well, and how we can continue to enhance the program. You may or may not know, but Ashley is expecting a child here in August, which isn't too far around the corner. So we have a person that's going to actually be filling in for Ashley for the rest of the year. Her name is Karen Camphouse. Karen has been brought up to speed in the last month about the program and is also equipped to answer questions as well. So if Ashley's not available or if I'm not available, Karen will be able to do that as well. Another familiar person that's on our team that you know are going to know probably pretty well is Lori Zadanek. If you remember, Lori Zadanek served as Executive Director for Raise the Bar for a couple of years. I worked very closely with Lori you know, on some of those initiatives that she had. And when we had an opening here at Marathon, we invited Lori to join us as well. So she's been with us since April. She hasn't seen the inside of Marathon yet because we're still working remote, but we hope to get her in as soon as we can and get back to the norm. But she's been a definite asset since she's joined just a few months ago. And then the last person that I wanted to mention is Jaime De La Cruz. He's not part of my specific team in community investment, but you probably know him very well. He serves as our Director of Diversity and Inclusion. Jaime, the reason I've invited him to attend the meeting is he serves as our sponsor for the employee giving campaign. So he's very familiar what Marathon has done in the past and also with the campaign that we'll be running this fall. So I wanted to invite him to be a part of it as well. Just pause real quick. Brian, can you tell me, can everybody see the screen? The presentation?
We do not, or at least I don't. All I see are the different name boxes still.
Oh, okay. Well, let me see if I can figure out how to make that happen. You see it now?
We sure do.
Okay, great. Wonderful. So this is the presentation that we'll be going over today. And, you know, I hate that this is not in person. I'm a people person. I love to meet and interact with everyone. So what I'm going to do is we go through each topic. I'm going to pause for probably, you know, a few seconds just to make sure that there's no questions. We'll also have a meet and greet period at the end of the presentation. So if anybody has some questions and want to save them for the end, that's fine as well. So I'm just trying to figure out how to move the slides forward. I'm sorry, this normally works here. There you go. Can you see the next screen?
We're good.
Okay, so today's agenda is going to cover quite a few topics from Marathon. We get different questions from the community over time. And the biggest question is, how do we interact with you if we're looking to either get funding or get volunteers or do some kind of activity within the community? There's a couple buckets where we can do that. And so I'm going to be covering the Marathon Petroleum Foundation, telling you a little bit about what that's all about. I'm also going to be covering another section which is called Company Charitable Contributions. There's a third bucket, which maybe you're familiar with, maybe you're not. It's called Local Giving. And then the fourth bucket that we'll be covering today is Employee Giving and Volunteer Incentive Program. And within that program, that's what Ashley will be talking about. She'll be talking about the giving programs prior to this year, how we used to run our giving programs, what the Employee Giving Program looks like today. She'll also talk about our Volunteer Incentive Program. Most of you, I think, are familiar with it, but we'll provide some details around that. We have a program for matching gifts for higher ed, so we'll just talk on that briefly. Impact Match. Impact stands for Marathon Political Action Committee. So we do have a match for that as well. So Ashley's going to talk about how that works and how you can get funding for your organization from that. And then we'll also talk about donor information. You know, if somebody actually gives to your charity, how do you know who's giving, how much they gave, and when they gave that dollar amount? So we'll review all of that. And then we want to end the presentation with talking about the 2020 Employee Giving Campaign that we'll be launching here in a couple weeks. And then I'll just recap at the end what we believe are the community benefits of these programs and how we can interact with you going forward. And then, like I mentioned before, we'll have a question and answer period. So if we move to the first section, which is the foundation, I'm not sure if everybody's familiar or not, but Marathon has a foundation. It's separate from our company contributions. The name of the foundation is Marathon Petroleum Foundation. When we merged with Endeavor back in late 2018, Endeavor actually had the foundation. Marathon did not. And so Marathon assumed the name of the foundation and moved it forward. And it's been up and running now for I'd say almost 2 years at this point in time. The foundation is focused really on 3 areas. You know, these are bigger initiatives that we want to support in our communities across all of our sites. So not just here in Findlay, but at all of our refinery sites, terminal sites, logistics and storage. So what I want to talk about on the foundation is it really supports 3 different areas. If you have an initiative where you're conducting a STEM education program, or where you're doing an environmental project, or you're doing public safety, that's where you would probably come to the foundation for a foundation grant. These are not $5,000, $10,000, you know, smaller projects or initiatives. They're really long-term commitments and larger dollars. So for any of your organizations that is looking to start a program where you're going to educate students about STEM education opportunities and talk about careers, we would be interested in possibly supporting that through the foundation. The other one, and let me just step back. The reason Marathon is interested in that, if you think about it, we're a pretty large organization. We employ over 20,000 employees nationwide. And at times it's difficult to find employees. You know, we're looking for folks that have the skills that we need to run our operations. So selfishly, we're looking to get students into STEM education careers so that we can fill the workforce pipeline, but also we want to just better the community as a whole. So if students can be subjected to learning about science and technology and process improvements and that kind of thing, that's certainly going to help the student themselves, but it's also going to help our company in the long run. So that's why we support the STEM education. And I just mentioned we actually throw vocational tech in with STEM education. So we're looking for folks that, you know, post high school that are going to go either into a 2-year college or a 4-year university, or maybe somebody just right out of school that just wants to get a certification in an area. Those are the typical programs that we would invest in through the foundation. The next bullet point, if you see it, is environment conservation and sustainability. If you think about it, you know, Marathon's in the oil and energy business. While everybody enjoys the products that we develop and make, they don't always appreciate us in their communities. You know, sometimes we are associated with some negative things. So we want to make sure that the company understands how we operate and how safely we do actually operate our businesses and how concerned we are about the environment. So we do a lot of programs where we go in and teach about clean air, clean water, and actually take spaces that have been abandoned in communities and turn them into green spaces and usable spaces for our community members. So that's what that area is really all about. And the third one is all about public safety. You know, obviously we want to run our business in a safe manner, but we also want our communities to be a safe place to come, to work, to visit, and to play. So a lot of times in this realm of the business, we will support first responders. So it's our police departments and our fire departments that are going out to keep our communities safe. A lot of times we will provide equipment and training curriculums to help educate those first responders so that they can serve their communities as best as possible. So the foundation, we consider it very strategic, and we're always looking for measurable outcomes. One of the things that Lori's been tasked with since she's joined our group is helping us to measure our results. So when we get foundation grants approved, we want to make sure that they're actually doing what the organization is telling us that they're going to do, and that we're actually making an impact in our community. You know, of course, we're looking for return on investment, but also for the social impact, you know, making sure that we're making a difference, and then also building capacity so that not only we continue to support it, but it's sustainable and we can get other groups to support it as well. When you talk about the foundation, we're making sure that the things that we invest in are aligned with our company goals and our focus areas. I just talked about some of the specific reasons about why we support STEM education, environment, and public safety. And then the other thing, keep in mind, and this is very good for the Findlay community, but we want to serve the communities where we have a significant presence. As you can imagine, we get numerous grant requests. Our foundation application is public, and so we get grant requests every day. There's hundreds and hundreds of them. We can't say yes to everybody, so we have to look at the ones that are strategic and that are aligned with our business. And then we also look to support the communities where we live and operate. I don't know if you know the Marathon footprint or not, but we do have 16 refineries from coast to coast. So we're all the way from California all to the east side as well. And then in between, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of terminals and storage areas and different operations that support not only our refinery, but also our storage and transfer of fuel. And then, of course, you know, our Marathon and Speedway retail outlets. We have a whole other avenue where we actually sell our product to the consumers such as you. So that was a brief update on the foundation. You can see at the bottom of the slide that the grant application is public and it can be accessed at the site given below. I will give this presentation to Brian, so don't feel like you have to scribble any of this right now, and he can shoot it out to the group at a later point if there's an interest in doing so. So I'm going to pause for a moment and see if there's any questions regarding the foundation itself. Okay, well, very good. I'm going to move on to the next bucket then. It's called company charitable contributions. This is different from the foundation in the fact that it's paid by the company, not paid by the foundation. So, you know, these two groups, the foundation and the company, operate separately. While we know what's being spent on each one, they do serve as two different entities. So for company charitable contributions, so there's now 4 areas where we focus our attention rather than 3. The first one, again, well, the first 3 are the same as what I talked about on the foundation. We are definitely interested in education, public safety, and environment. But the 4th one is community needs. And let me just pause for a moment. The reason we separate the foundation from the company charitable contributions is in the foundation, we're actually supporting true initiatives for the goodness of the community. When we talk about company contributions, a lot of times there's an actual chance where we're going to get a benefit. We're going to go to an event or we're going to go to a sponsorship. We're going to be able to put up our banners. We're going to be able to, you know, showcase our name. And so if there's actually a benefit to be derived, it has to be paid for by the company, not the foundation itself. So with knowing that, the 4th bucket I wanted to talk about is community needs. If you think about what's happened to our world since March with the COVID-19 pandemic that's taken place, community needs have just skyrocketed, as I'm sure you all know. We get a lot of requests for food pantries. We get a lot of requests for shelter and immediate need for people. It's not just here in Findlay, it's definitely across all of the nation. And so this is one of the bucket areas where we have the ability to support those types of initiatives. So you'll note the note at the bottom. It says MPC is redirecting the funding of this account over time to the foundation. We prefer to support programs, initiatives versus fundraising events. So a lot of times if we're supporting, let's say the American Heart Association that just had the walk, you know, it turned out to be virtual, or the Susan G. Komen run that's coming up, that's a virtual event. These are the types of things that we do that would be paid out of this bucket. What we'd really like Marathon to do, our thought is that we'd really like to start supporting the programs and the initiatives that the organizations are really doing rather than the fundraising itself. While I know that's important and we don't want to go away from it completely, we would rather be asked about programs or initiatives that you have in place and let the fundraising be part of it. So build it into your grant request for the program or the initiative. The reasons why we say that a lot of times is because if we were helping an organization and we had given $50,000 to support one of their programs and initiatives, you know, a month later or 3 months later, we might get, hey, we're having a fundraiser. Would you like to be a part of it? We'd like to consider the fact that we're already a part of it and that we get the chance to be at the table and be a part of that event. But we'd like the fundraising to be built into the initiative so that there's not multiple asks throughout the year. That has been slow to do. We're working on it over time, little by little, but you might notice that we're pushing back a little bit on the request for sponsorships and saying we really want to support programs and initiatives that are going to make a difference rather than the fundraising opportunities. You'll note down at the bottom, this grant application is not public. You have to be invited by MPC to submit the grant request. So usually through our local representatives here, by somebody that you know at Marathon or somebody that volunteers for your programs, they will let us know about different programs or initiatives that you have going on. And if it makes sense and it's something that we want to support, we will send you a grant application to fill out so that you can fill that out and possibly be granted funds going forward. The reason we don't make it public, if you can imagine, we already are hit big time with grant applications coming in on the foundation side. And what we don't want to do, it's not that we don't want to see the grant application requests. We don't want people to spend time filling out multiple grant opportunities only to find out that it's not going to be applicable or it doesn't tie to our interests. So that's why we invite you to come and talk to us. Let us know what your programs, initiatives are, and if we can support them, then we'll invite you to submit the grant application. Any questions about our company charitable contributions and how that program works? Okay, now I'm going to move on. I'm really thinking that most of your questions are going to be around how the employee giving and volunteer incentive program work, and also how the employee campaign is going to look for 2020. But I do want to make sure that everybody understands the different programs and opportunities, community investment opportunities that are available. So this third bucket is local charitable giving. You may or may not be familiar with this. This is a new program for Marathon nationwide. It's basically, it gives the chance that each one of the sites, not only our refineries, but our logistics and storage groups, and then also our corporate groups, a chance to have discretionary spending. This will be very important, I think, to the Findlay community. Right now, there was $75,000 allocated to the budget for Findlay. Laura Tackett, I don't know if you know Laura Tackett or not, but she actually manages that bucket for Marathon. And we have a local giving committee group that meets every month to say, here's all the requests that have either come in from the community or have come in from our employees. Let's look at these and see which one of these makes sense to support this year. So the request has to be $5,000 or less. But it can typically range from as low as $500. In fact, I've even seen some at the $100 and $200 level, but they typically range between $500 and $1,000. Like I mentioned, there's a local giving committee, and there's a bucket here for just Findlay. There's a bucket for each one of our sites, like I mentioned. It's a diverse group of employees that gathers on a monthly basis to talk about these requests that have come in, and they decide how the funds are going to be allocated. I have to admit there's special consideration given to charities where our employees are involved, whether they're on the board or they've done volunteer activities for your organizations. They tend to get the first go at the money that's allocated for the year. The other things that you have to keep in mind, I'm assuming that all the groups that are on today are 501c3 charities, but each of these have to be 501c3 charities in order to receive funds. Typically we'll get people that says, I have an employee who's struggling with a health program, whether it's cancer or heart disease or something like that. Would we be willing to give $1,000 or $2,000 to the family? That's not what this program's all about. If that person is receiving services from somebody here in one of your organizations here in Hancock County, then we would certainly allow them to request a grant, and then we would work with the organization to actually fund their initiatives. So they have to be 501c3 charities. The other thing that I would mention is that no political or religious grant requests are accepted. Now, religious, I have to be careful a little bit because there are churches here in the community that actually support, maybe they support a food bank or a homeless shelter or a homeless shelter initiative, or they support the Boy Scouts program. So when we say no religious requests are allowed, we do allow the secular organizations to participate, but if it's truly for church operations, we cannot support that at this point in time. So if you want to participate in one of these programs or these grant application opportunities, you should submit these to MPC through your employee volunteers or your board members. All of our employees should be aware of this opportunity, or you can go directly to Laura Tackett or myself. I'm part of that charitable giving committee, and Laura Tackett manages it on a day-to-day basis. So we'd be happy to entertain any of those requests. Now keep in mind, $75,000 goes very quickly, just very quickly. So if there's multiple requests, there's still a chance that the answer will be no, but we definitely want to consider any of those considerations or requests that are out there from the community. So I'm going to pause again. Is there any questions about the local charitable giving program here at Marathon?
Cathy, this is Wendy McCormick from Habitat for Humanity. You mentioned the $75,000 goes quickly. What time of year does that get renewed? Is there a good time for our planning that we should just plan on submitting that early in your funding season?
That's a great question, Wendy. We actually meet prior to the start of the next year. So we'll be meeting in November to December. And at that point in time, what we do is look at everything that has been done for the current year. And we say, is this something that still needs to be, repeated? Should it be enhanced? Should it be stopped? So that's our first look. And then we say, what other grant requests came in through the year that maybe we said no to? And should we consider, giving them an opportunity? We accept grant requests all throughout the year, but your best bet is to get them in as soon as possible so that we can start to look at those and then give some consideration. Now, I will say that about 60% of the funds have already been allocated for 2020. So if you turn a request in, you might get it, within the first month if it makes sense, or it might be something that we say, sounds like a great plan, but we're going to hold off until next year and we'll review and perhaps support it then. But my suggestion was we really do get around at the November, December timeframe to look at it from an annual standpoint, but we approve grants all throughout the year. Does that help?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to move on and I'm going to switch it over to Ashley, let her tell you a little bit about the employee giving program and the volunteer incentive program that we have here at Marathon.
Thank you, Cathy. So as Cathy mentioned, I've been with the company just 9 years now. I just had my anniversary at the beginning of July. And I just joined Cathy in the group in the community investment side last September. So I'm still new to this world in general. Prior to this, I worked in our transport group at the Findlay office. So give you, and also as Cathy mentioned, I'm going to apologize now. I am expecting and baby is sitting right on my lungs. So if I become short of breath, that is why. So please excuse me for that. So for our employee giving programs prior to the merger, just as a general background for you all. So Marathon, prior to 2019, we always ran local United Way campaigns. So we were a United Way company, and that's all we would match for our employee donations, and we would match those at 62%. Legacy Endeavor, they were more of an open giving platform for their employees. So their employees could give to any eligible 501c3, and they would match funds at 100% with a $5,000 annual cap. Next slide, thank you. So now what 2020 looks like, our new volunteer portal. So We launched a portal back in August of last year that's through Your Cause. And this provides us a central location for employees to kind of do all of their giving in one spot. We are able to manage our employee giving, our volunteer incentive program, our impact match, and our matching gifts for higher education program, all within this one portal. And also, if you all don't want to take notes or anything, I do have a brochure that if Brian hasn't sent out yet, he can also provide when he sends these the slideshow out for everybody. So, and all this information is in there as well for you. So we adopted a hybrid approach in 2019 where employees could give to an eligible 501c3 and they would receive a 60% match with no annual cap. We ran a 4-month campaign, and during that time, employees and company match, we raised over $4.3 million to 3,000 organizations across the company. So we would consider that a very good success for the first time opening this portal to the masses of the company. Next slide. So what does 2020 look like? So we've kind of adopted this new logo of MPC Gives, and you'll start to see this throughout different areas of our campaign, and all of our brochures are going to have this new beautiful logo that we worked on. So Marathon is employees are passionate about giving their time, treasure, and talents to address the issues facing our world. And it's part of our culture and how we live our mission to support our employees' passion for giving. MPC matches employee donations of time and money to eligible nonprofit organizations. So, to support and encourage our employee giving initiatives, we reopened the portal in March 31st of 2020. So when we closed the campaign last year in 19, we had to do a downtime of making sure, it was a new portal, we need to make sure all of our employee giving payroll deductions were set up correctly, that we didn't have any issues on the back end. So that's why we closed it. And when we reopened on the 31st of March, our plan is for it to be open year round. So we don't have any anticipation of closing this portal. So employees have been able to log donations in the portal since the end of March. Still, employees are can make donations to eligible 501c3 organizations, and we will match that by the company. Different from 19, we did have to put a cap on this this year. So we are matching right now at 100% with a $10,000 annual cap per employee. Just with the economy and the business, we do reserve the right to alter the company match without notice based on the environment. Employee donations are paid directly to qualified charities selected by the employees on a monthly basis. And then donation options are included our payroll deduction, that could be one-time or reoccurring, credit card donations, or offline donations. So if we've had employees that have made donations previously that weren't recorded in the portal, they can actually upload those receipts, and then we'll provide the match for those as long as the donation was in 2020. I'm going to pause right there and see what questions I have.
This is
Okay.
Wendy McCormick again. I'm sorry, Ashley.
No.
I've had questions from donors. They want to know if they need to make their original donation through the portal, or can they make the original donation to us and use the receipt, or can they do it both ways? And there's a lot of question around that.
Yeah, so they can actually do either. They can make the original donation through the portal, and they would do that either payroll or credit card. If they make the donation directly to the organization, they would just take that receipt, and the receipt does have to have some specific information. So it has to have employee name. It can have spouse's name, but employee name must be on there. So it can have employee plus spouse or just employee's name, the date of the donation, the dollar amount of the donation, and then the information on the organization that they donated to. And they're able to upload that receipt into our portal, and then they can request a match through there. And then, so then you would have already received the donation, and we'll just send you the match amount.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Next slide. So another one that I think is very important for all of you on the call to kind of be educated on, because this is a little different than what it was in the past for our employees, but I think it's a great benefit, and a lot of our employees are becoming more educated on this, but the more we can help get the word out, if you know you have employees that are volunteering with your organizations, you can help educate them as well. So we have 2 different programs for our volunteer incentive program where employees can earn up to $1,000 per calendar year to be donated to organizations of their choices. So the first one is an individual grant. So we'll actually award individuals $500 in a virtual cause card that they're able to redeem to a charity of their choice. The way the employees earn this is that they volunteer 24 hours to any organizations and 501c3s, and then once they reach the 24 hours, that's when they receive the card. So they can actually, for the 24 hours, this can be pulled from multiple events in multiple organizations. So employee could volunteer for 24 hours throughout the year to one organization, and then they would become eligible. Or they could actually volunteer to one organization, or 1 hour to 24 different organizations to hit that 24 hours, and then they would still be eligible to receive the $500. At that point, that $500 is eligible to go to any organization that the employee chooses. It does not have to be an organization that they volunteered at. The second one is our Team VIP grant. So each employee is eligible to create an event in our portal. And as long as the employee plus volunteer for 24 hours to an organization, then they will be eligible for a $500 grant to go to that organization. Employee plus means that it's employee and either immediate family member, community members, or coworkers. And then once they hit the 24 hours combined between the group, that's when they're eligible to apply for that $500 grant. And that does have to go to the organization, like I said, that they volunteered at. So the maximum number that grants eligible to each employee is 2, regardless of how many hours they've volunteered. It's just 2 for the year. And like I said, maximum of $1,000 per year. So what questions on volunteer incentive program?
Ashley, I believe in the past that the volunteer incentive program, that individual grant or the previous form of that was available to spouses. Is that still the case?
So it's not, so that's how the team event works. So as, like you mentioned, in the past, a spouse was eligible for a $500 for themselves. They're no longer eligible. It has to be within that team. So with that team grant, it doesn't have to be divided equally. So let's say the spouse volunteers for 23 hours. The employee has to have at least 1 hour of volunteerism with that organization to be eligible.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then everything has to go through our portal. There's a couple, now that you brought that up, there's a couple good leeways for me to kind of explain what was different. In the past, there was that paper form that the organizations had to sign off of, confirming that the employee did volunteer. That is no longer the case. So employees just have to log everything through the portal. There's no longer anything that you as the charity have to sign off on. Any other questions on volunteerism? Okay, next slide.
I was just going to jump in real quick. This is Cathy. We know, due to COVID-19, there's probably a lot less volunteers available or acceptable at this point in time. One of the things that Marathon is doing, it should be going out sometime this week or early next week, is a highlight on how you can still volunteer, but as a virtual volunteer. So you can serve as a mentor, you can provide, book work, that kind of thing. You can teach a class, you could do a presentation for a group or something like that. So if you have items like that, and you're unable to accept volunteers right now, or you're unable to get volunteers because of the social distancing restrictions, please remember to think about those types of opportunities that maybe, maybe somebody can help with, sending letters and mailing stuff for you, but do it at their home rather than at the office or your organization. So we're going to be highlighting that with our teams here in the next couple weeks. But if you have ideas like that, be sure to talk to your board members and your volunteers and remind them of those needs at your facilities as well.
Yeah, Cathy, that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. Definitely, if you guys have virtual volunteerism options available and you know that you've had volunteers that have come onto your sites before to help with things, feel free to reach out to them again with those type of opportunities. And I would also recommend, reaching out to anyone that you know is an employee that typically volunteers for you or even sits on your board. So sitting on your boards, as long as they're not being paid to do something, that's volunteerism. They can log those hours to be eligible for these grants. So just a general reminder is not a bad thing to do either. We push it from our side, but it's always nice for the charities to do so as well as a reminder of these extra dollars that are sitting out there for the employees to take advantage of. Go to the next slide, thank you. So just real quick, high level on our matching gifts for higher education program. So we will, to encourage our employees to giving to institutes of higher ed, we'll actually match qualified donations dollar for dollar to 2- and 4-year universities. We'll match these up to $10,000 per calendar year at $100 for dollar, 100%. So a same deal, the employees go through the portal, they can do this through credit card donations, offline donations, and they actually have payroll deduction available this year as well, which was not available last year. This is a different bucket of funds for them, just so your awareness. So the employee giving is matched at 100% up to $10,000 per calendar year for employee. And this is a different bucket that is matched at 100% up to $10,000 per calendar year for the employee. So the one does not touch the other. Any questions on that?
Yeah, this is Lee Zidonic. Thank you, Ashley. For that, does it go to the university's general fund, or can you specify that maybe like the Muslim Museum or a specific program, business affiliates, whatever, that money would go towards?
Yeah, so employees actually have the ability. So what they'll have to do is when they log it through the portal, it has to go to the school's 501c3. And then there's actually a designation option that employees can type in information. Then that gets relayed to the schools or the charities. And this is for both matching gifts for higher ed and employee giving. So if it was for, they wanted the Muslim Museum, they can note in the designation, and then that's up to the school or organization, whatever, to view that to see where they want those funds to go towards.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. And the same works for, we have found this with a lot of larger universities, because a university will have one 501c3 tax identification number, but the schools themselves within the university may not. So employees will have to note that in their designation that it would potentially go to this college within the university, not the general university's funds. Any other questions? All right, Cathy, can we go to the next one? So as Cathy mentioned, our MPAC match is ran through the portal as well this year. So employees have ability to donate to our PAC, and if they contribute a minimum of $48 per quarter during the calendar year, they actually receive a match for that they can then designate funds out to charities of their choice. So we're issuing these virtual cause cards again on a quarterly basis, and then it's up to the employee to go out and redeem those to a charity of their choice. So they can choose eligible nonprofit organizations to receive the match. This does include churches, alma mater, school boosters, and other charities that they've been able to do so in the past. This is a program that you may or may not have seen funds from before. It just always typically came in a lump check at the end of the year. We've just moved it over to the portal as a one-stop shop for our employees. Any questions on this?
Hi, Ashley. I'm sorry if I'm forcing you to be redundant, but
No, you're
I've
fine.
actually just logged on to our portal so I could take a look at some of the contributions we've received. And if it says, if it's designated as employer match cause card, we can assume then that that's part of this MPAC match, or that could also be volunteerism.
So there's, and we have a couple slides coming up in a little
Okay.
bit here that kind of go over the back end of the portal as much as I can help as possible. So the one thing that we're not able to designate is that if it comes in a cause card form, it doesn't tell you what the cause card is for. I've tried working with our vendor to see if we can get anything additional added to that, and at this point in time, we can't. If it comes in, so the best way I can help kind of decide, like, is it a MPAC match or is it volunteerism? If it comes in a value of $500, it's a volunteerism.
Okay.
If it's anything outside of that, it is an MPAC match.
Okay, and in those instances, the reason I ask is because at times I've been confused as to how I should acknowledge the gift in a letter to the donor. So in both of those instances, we're not looking to give them a tax benefit
Correct.
letter. Okay,
Correct.
great. Thanks,
Yep.
Ashley.
And then as far as the tax benefit letter, and Cathy, you may want to help me answer this question. Our employees have the ability to pull that information out of the portal at year end as well. So if they're giving directly through our portal, so if they're giving the credit card or the payroll deductions, employees have the ability to pull that tax information out of the portal directly.
Okay.
Cathy, is that correct?
That's correct, Ashley. Yeah, they can either get it directly from the charity themselves when they send the receipt letter, the thank you letter, or they can get it from the portal. So they have two options.
Any other questions on that? Or on anything I've covered thus far? All right, Cathy, you can go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, so there is a Your Cause is our portal vendor, and there's a nonprofit admin portal. And I'm going to do as best as I can to kind of cover a few things on the back end, but I honestly have zero access to this portal. I've tried to see if they would make me a generic account so I could play in it just to understand it a little bit better. But they aren't willing to because I'm not a 501c3. So I'll do what I can to kind of give you a little bit of information. So again, this information is in the brochure on how you can register if you're not already registered for the portal on the brochure that I'll have Brian send out. So this is just some general information letting you know that we have partnered with Your Cause, and this is general information on how you can actually create an account. So there's a little bit of information you'll need to provide to them. And then from what I understand, once you provide it, it's a pretty quick and easy process. And then you're able to see all this information from the employee side for what employees have decided to provide to you in this portal. And you can also, you're able to set up direct deposit through this. So if you don't want to receive a physical check to deposit, you can have it where it's just direct deposited into your charity's account. I'm going to go to the next slide, Cathy. So I've got some slides here, and like I said, I will do as best as I can to kind of show you the information out here. So you'll see if once you have access to this portal, you can kind of see the different payments that are out here. So your organization name and information will be up in the top corner. From what I do understand on the back end of this portal, if something were to happen and you were to move locations and you needed the address changed, and if you don't get it changed through IRS information first, you can actually go out into the portal and update that information as well. There is also a new feature where you can add keywords. So our employees have the ability to search on our portal for charities based off of name and location. They can put in an address or city, state information. They can search off of a registration number, which is your tax ID number. And now they also have the ability to search by keyword. And that keyword is actually put into the portal based off of what the charity puts in. So if you're homeless shelter and you put homeless shelter in there, if an employee is searching for homeless shelters in their area, they can search by keyword. Sorry, I'm reviewing this slide to see what all I wanted to discuss on it. So as you navigate to the giving, you'll kind of see an overall, this is just a general information of giving for the checks that have been sent to you. And then when you click into those, that's when you can kind of get additional information. Any questions on what the main giving page on the admin portal looks like? Or
This is Bill Bruce. Did I hear you correctly that an employee of the organization has to apply for this?
So for the admin portal, someone at the sorry, go ahead.
The admin portal.
Yep, so it's actually someone with the charity has to create this account.
But the reason I ask, for instance, the Findlay Rotary Club is entirely volunteers except for one administrator who kind of takes care of all the dues and everything, but we really don't have employees.
It can be that administrator that creates the account that can then have access to this back end to see all the information. So it just has to be somebody at the organization. It can't be like I can't go in and try to do it, because you do have to provide some proof that you're part of the organization and proof that you are a 501c3. So it kind of just, they verify everything before they go out and give you access to this, because there's so much information in this portal. They won't just grant it to anybody who says they're part of your organization without a little bit of proof documentation.
Thank you.
No problem. And all the information that is needed is in that brochure that we'll make sure you guys all have. Do you want to go to the next slide, Cathy? Thank you. So some information on transactions. So you can see this is where I've kind of put those notes on what it could be, because since the information isn't kind of broken out on what the cause card exact is. So if it's an exact amount of 500, it is likely from our volunteer incentive program. And if it's anything that is not, then it's likely from our impact match program. And you'll see over on the right-hand side that those are all listed as cause cards. You'll also be able to see in the transactions employee information. So if employee has decided to give you, they have an option to either give you their name and email address, their name, their email address, and their physical address, or they can remain anonymous. So there's a potential that you'll see information and it's not going to tell you anything. It's going to say anonymous, and that's because the employee itself has decided to remain anonymous. You'll also see here the designation. So that's where if an employee wanted to say this is supposed to go to a certain program, that's where they have an option to write that designation. There are a few options when they designate to either say none. There's general support. There's a few canned kind of options for them for designation. And then there is an other option, which then provides them as a free form box to type in whatever they would like. Cathy, if you want to go to the next slide, I think I have more information on transactions. Yep.
Ashley?
Yes.
The portal is just for the charity to look at it. That is not a requirement for the employee to give to the charity, though. Is that a true statement? So
this portal is just an option for the charities to have access to see information on employee information that is provided to you. So if you were to not create a portal access, when you receive funds from your cause, it'll come in a physical check. It won't provide any additional information to you. They've kind of, to reduce their environmental footprint, they've reduced the information that's put on the check. So as opposed to receiving a statement with that check anymore, everything's in this portal. For the employee to give and for the company to match, they have to put it through a completely different portal that the employees have access to.
Thank you.
No problem. So you can see on this screen, you can see how, again, you're going to have the donor information if they provided it. Then in this received amount line item, you can see that it'll tell you what the employee dollar was, and then it'll tell you what the match percentage was. So at this point in time, this is when we were matching at 60%, but now that we are matching at 100%, you'll see that dollar amount should be the same. Again, you'll have designation information, and then you'll also have type. So if the individual if it was a offline donation, you would just see a match amount. You wouldn't see the employee donation because you as the organization have already received the employee donation. Any questions I can attempt to answer for the transactions pieces of the admin portal?
Ashley, can multiple people sign up to be on the portal for a charity, or is it just one?
I believe it is just one account that you can create. I am not 100% sure on that though. I can verify. I'm almost positive it's just one per account for organization, but I can verify that and send a note to Brian to let him kind of follow up on that.
Thank you.
No problem. Let me take a quick pause to write that down. Any other questions I can answer? All right, Cathy, if you want to go to the next slide. Again,
slideshow if you want.
Is there a question? Okay. Again, this is just more information on general, what you'll see in the transactions, the different payroll information. As you can see, if the employee chooses to remain anonymous, that's completely up to them. And then I will also note that payroll does not note if it is a payroll reoccurring or if it's a one-time deduction for payroll. So to the portal, payroll is payroll, and they're not concerned if it's reoccurring or not. So there's no way for us to note that for you either. I'll go to the next one, Cathy. Any questions I can follow up on before I think? Cathy, do you want me to cover the campaign, or do you want to?
Covered, Ashley. I'm good.
Okay.
I just want to jump in here real quick. You know, when we're talking about the employee giving campaign, Ashley and I have done everything we can to bring it forward to our employees, but we're still surprised. You know, every once in a while somebody will come up and say, I didn't know we matched at 100%, or I didn't know we had a cap of $10,000, or I didn't even know how to get into the portal. So we really rely back on you in the community, you know, the organizations where you work with employees. If you have fundraisers, for example, an event where you're doing a fundraiser and somebody has, you know, made a donation of, you know, $200, $500 or more, maybe in your brochures or in your events, if you remind employees that there is a matching gift program, a lot of times we find out the events were on a Friday night or Saturday night, or Monday morning I'll get a note back. Can I really put this into the, you know, the portal and get benefits? So as much as we can advertise, we rely on you to advertise this program as well and remind our employees of the benefits that are out there. Okay, we'll move on now. Let's talk about the 2020 employee giving campaign and what that's going to look like. For the Findlay and Hancock County area, the campaign is going to kick off on August 24th. It's going to be heavily promoted for 4 weeks. but the campaign totals will not be finalized till the end of the year. So basically within our four walls, and even though most of our employees or half our employees are still working remotely through emails and video scripts that we send out, we're going to be promoting this campaign for 4 weeks, reminding them, of all the good things that the campaign does, the impact that it has in the community. We've got a lot of great communications planned, but after 4 weeks, we will stop pushing it from that perspective. But that doesn't mean the campaign really ends on our end. It'll actually go through the end of the year. The campaign this year is going to be called United Way Plus. The reason we're doing that is, if you remember last year, we opened it up to our employees, but there was a lot of confusion about, is the money just for United Way, or is it going to all organizations? And we got through the learning curve a little bit, but we wanted to make sure that they understand we still want them to support the United Way if that's what they want to do. But we also want to let them know that there's an option to support other organizations that they're passionate about directly if that's what they want to do as well. So the employee has the option whether they want to give directly to the United Way or if they give it to another organization that they're interested in. The 100% company match is going to continue. I think Ashley mentioned before that we have the right to change that at any point in time due to business operations. I don't know of any change at this point in time. Marathon leadership definitely supports this program, thinks it's important, and I don't foresee it changing in any time in the near future, but just have to always mention that in case it might. The one thing that's a big change for this year, and it might be good for your organization, it might not be. It all depends on what people did the year before. But what used to happen was when people pledged, they were going to make a payroll deduction. They pledged that amount in the fall, and then we started taking money out of their check beginning the start of the next year. And then what would happen, so if that happened in 2019, at the end of 2020, that pledge would stop. It would terminate on December 31st, and unless they renewed it or put something in, it would not go on. What we've decided this year, and we think it's a good thing, we'll find out, we learn sometimes the hard way whether things are good or bad, but we're going to keep the pledges evergreen, which means that come December 31st, if somebody said they were going to give, let's say $10 a week to United Way, and that was supposed to expire December 31st, 2019, or excuse me, 2020, it's going to continue on. So it's up to the employee to go in and say, hey, I want to increase that. I want to decrease it, I want to stop it altogether, or I want to change it to another organization. They have the ability to do that. But should the employee decide that they're comfortable with what's in there right now, they don't have to go out to the site and change it, but they can enhance it at any point in time. And they don't have to wait until the pledge period. We were talking about the pledge period opens August 24th. They don't have to wait until that point in time. They could go in today, they could go in tomorrow, they could go in next year and change it at any point in time. But that's something different than that was in play before. The other thing that's really important to mention so that you folks know is we didn't let our casual employees participate last year. And what that means is people that are not on the payroll full time. So if somebody's coming in as only working part-time, or they're on a job for 6 months and then off, we didn't let them participate last year because it was just too hard to manage it. The administrative side of it was too hard in the system. We got a little feedback back that, a lot of these people were previous employees of Marathon and they wanted to be able to do that. And so we worked with our provider, Your Cause, and we are going to let casual employees participate, but it is on a limited basis, which what that means is they can write a check, they can make a credit card donation, and those will be matched at 100%, but they still can't participate from a payroll deduction standpoint, only because, again, it would be too administratively hard to manage. But we are glad to invite the casual employees to participate again. This is going to be a virtual campaign. So a lot of you, especially United Way folks, know that when we kicked off the employee giving campaign each fall, we always had a big party, that basically closed the streets out in front of Marathon and in our green area. We would invite vendors in, and we would have a big celebration for our employees. And at that point in time, they would be making their pledges and learning more about the United Way. We aren't going to be able to have that because of the social distancing requirements. So this year is going to be a virtual campaign instead. What we're going to be doing is highlighting a lot of the charity work that goes on in our community right now. So we're going to be doing little videoettes of our employees. You know, maybe they volunteer for one of the organizations in Hancock County, or they've received benefits from them, and they're going to be talking about why that charity was important to them. So this is going to be really important. I think when we talked about having this meeting, we worked with Brian and we said, hey, we'd really like to know a little bit more about your organization so we can highlight it where possible. So you were asked to provide, you know, what's your charity's name, what's your main mission, what is your biggest needs right now, and send those into us. And I see that quite a few of them come in, but we don't have all of them. We're going to be pulling information from those and making sure that our employees are aware of the available organizations that they can donate to and volunteer. So if you haven't already done so, I really encourage you to get that into us so that we can use that information and share it with our employees. And then the only other thing I want to mention is, you know, our campaign, it was very good last year. I think Brian mentioned it earlier on, and a lot of the organizations know is that Marathon is very good at contributing to the community. But one of the ways we do that is through fundraisers. And if you think about it, some of our key fundraisers are canceled this year, probably not unlike most of your fundraisers, because of social distancing rules. So we're not having the big golf tournament that we used to have that brought money in. Every Friday we wore jeans, and people paid money to wear jeans, and that raised, you know, a considerable amount of money. We're not going to have that because our employees aren't fully back to the office, and we're currently in casual dress on Fridays right now anyhow for the ones that are in. So we have some making up to do, and we know that. And so in our messaging that we give to our employees, we're going to talk about, you know, in times like now, it's not time to, you know, to slow down your giving. It's time to up your giving and think about where you can make the most impact. So we know we have a void to fill on some of these Jeans Day collections and these golf tournaments. So we're going to use a couple creative ways to get our people excited. One of the things we're doing, we've always done this, but we're trying to do it a little bit more creatively, is an online auction. So we'll be gathering assets, you know, give away things that we can give either through our company or through our leadership level, and auctioning those off to our employees so they can participate in them. If you have anything that might be of interest to our employees, let us know, and we can certainly include you in that. But we're trying to get creative on our side on how to raise these funds. But if anybody has any ideas or concepts that we can capitalize on, or just beg and borrow, I guess we'd love to do that as well. So that's kind of what the campaign's going to look like this year. Is there any questions about the go forward plans on that?
Hi, Cathy. This is Nick from the foundation. And I have a question. Maybe it would have been more appropriate earlier, but it just kind of jumped in my mind. Is that, you know, we have some Marathon employees that have spearheaded funds at the foundation. And if someone goes in and makes a gift through the employee giving campaign, you know, we have a lot of funds. Is there a way that we can help guide gifts to specific funds if the employees are trying to raise money for a specific type of area?
Yeah, any information you can give me, Nick, regarding what your suggested ideas would be, we could certainly put that in some of our communications. You know, we're putting notes out to remind people about, you know, this. Did you know this charity and what they do and their basic need is today? But if you have some of those similar ones where you can help guide people on what initiative to give to, we'll take that information. So you can send me an email, or we can chat on the phone if you want. I'd be happy to talk about that.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Because I know there's a couple groups that just sitting here and thinking about it will probably, contact us about, well, do you know if we can do this or that? So I'm just trying to think ahead now. But yeah, I'll be in touch soon and maybe we can talk about a few that I have in mind.
Okay, that sounds good. Any other questions from anybody regarding that or something about the employee giving campaign?
Cathy, this is Kim with the Boy Scout office. I do have a question in regards to the United Way. Are those going to come through the Your Cause portal, or are those going directly to the United Way for distribution?
I think it really depends. Let me make sure I understand your question first of all. So if an employee wants to give to the Boy Scouts, they can choose to give to the United Way and designate that the money goes to the Boy Scouts, or they can give to the Boy Scouts directly. And then our company match will match whatever the employee chooses. So if they say Boy Scouts, then our money will go directly to the Boy Scouts. If they said United Way with a designation to the Boy Scouts, then the money will go to the United Way and they'll be responsible for forwarding that on to you.
Perfect. Because we've been trying to figure out on the reports for the Your Cause if any of that was United Way based. So that seems to answer my question there.
Okay, great. You're welcome. Okay, I'm going to move on then. The last thing I just want to mention is kind of a summary of everything that Ashley and I spoke about so far. But I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to engage with the members of the charities in the organization. And we hope that you feel the same way, that there's a lot of opportunities to engage with Marathon and its employees. Just as a recap, we have employee donations, which Ashley covered, are matched at 100%, up to $10,000 per year. If you think about it, we have 2,000 employees here in Findlay, so there's a lot of dollars that are left on the table that don't actually get out to the communities. If you can help encourage our employees to give and to participate in that program, you're definitely going to benefit from there. Fundraising events, while this year is a little different than most, we do have the opportunity to match fundraisers to some extent. It's through our employee giving program. Right now, if we have a fundraiser here in Findlay, the money does actually go to the United Way, and it's from a match standpoint. But right now, there's not a whole lot of fundraising going on, so that's probably put on the shelves for a little bit right now. And then, of course, like I mentioned, we have the employee donation and the company match. One thing Ashley and I didn't mention in our presentation, it's just pretty new to us. It's not a lot of dollars, but it is, I think, teaching the right thing. We have what we call a new employee hire incentive. So every employee that joins our company within a month of joining, they're going to get information about our employee giving program, and they're going to get a free cause card. Ashley explained what a cause card is, but it's basically a gift card that they're going to get to give to a charity of their choice. It's only $20 because really the purpose is to get them used to the culture and to giving and to get familiar with the portal. But you may start to see some of those coming through. So if you know any young folks or new employees that maybe are older but just started with Marathon, they're all going to have those incentives as well. So that's a few more dollars that are going to our community over the next couple of years. So, and then I just want to mention, there's a lot of opportunities for you to engage with our folks. If funding's not always the availability, if you want employees to be board members, or if you want them to volunteer in your organizations, or if they already do, just make sure that you are in tune to our programs and you know about them, and remind them to do their due diligence when they return to the office and log their volunteer hours and also log their donations if they're doing that, and apply for their match. We actually have people that give donations and they actually put the donations to our systems, but they forget to apply for the match. Ashley and I are really trying to, educate, and, it's a new program and there's a lot of people to touch base with. I think we've done a pretty good job thus far getting people educated, but it just takes a lot of repetitive messaging and time to make sure everybody's in the loop on everything. So that's all we had planned for today. I'm going to pause to see if there's any questions or anything further that anybody wanted us to cover that maybe we didn't cover.
Hey, Cathy, this is Angela DeBosky at the United Way. Just on behalf of us and those that we serve in the community, thank you for the intentionality that you're making. We can see that fingerprint all over from your corporate match all the way down to the platforms that you're working with your cause. So thank you for your community investment and for continuing to prioritize this area in your corporate giving. Thanks.
Thanks, Angela. We enjoy working with you and we appreciate your support going forward. Thanks.
Cathy, this is Wendy from Habitat. Regarding our wonderful, passionate volunteers that all of us have, if they want to mobilize or encourage other volunteers to participate, I'll use our builds as an example. Is there a protocol internally that we can guide them on? They all are willing. They're just unsure on who to ask or how to ask to engage. And as a second question, if they've given and they forgot to apply to the match, can they apply on a retroactive gift?
Those are two great questions, Wendy. As far as engaging, volunteer teams, there is a way to put an event out on the site and then publish that event internally so that folks know that those events are happening and that they're looking for volunteers. If they don't know how to do that, maybe if you could redirect them to call Ashley or Karen or myself, we'd be happy to help them, walk them through that. So just send them our email or to walk them through it, and we can do that pretty quickly, I think. And your second question, I'm trying to remember, what was it again? I'm sorry.
No problem. If they've given a gift, and you said a lot of them forget to apply to the match in the program, they give but forgot to apply to the match, how long can they retroactively apply for the match?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if they give in the calendar year, so if they give in 2020, they actually have until March 31st of 2021 to apply for the match. And that's the same thing with the volunteer incentive hours too. We have a forgiveness period because we know a lot of people do things at the last minute. So they do have the additional 3 months of the next year to apply for those matches and have them take effect.
Thank you so much for all of this.
You're welcome.
Cathy, I have a question about local charitable giving and those grants. And my mind may have just blanked here.
That happens, I understand.
Yep, give me a minute, I'll come back to you.
That's fine, just let us know. Or you can, like I said, you can contact us via email or phone if you want to at a later date as well.
Okay, it's coming back to me. Are these primarily initiative based, or are you seeing some request for general operating support?
Yeah, I would say in most cases, general operating support is not going to get approved. We're looking for initiatives or projects where we can make a difference. I think a lot of times we look at sustainability. We're not interested in paying for the operations for the business to continue. We really want to do programs or initiatives.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, we'll give a little bit more time for questions, but the second part of this, aside from the presentation part, was the opportunity for some of you to do a little bit of a meet and greet. So before we get going with that, I want to thank everybody who is part of either giving the presentation or attending the presentation. It's really great to see so much enthusiasm about these new opportunities that MPC is providing. So in a few logistics, in the next couple of days, I will send the PowerPoint and any other materials Marathon has provided. I will send those out to all of the participants along with a survey. This is the first time we've arranged a funder call, and we think this is a really interesting opportunity and something we'd like to explore more. So the survey will help feel that out if it's mutual and you think that was helpful. please do the survey. I try to keep them at 2 minutes or less. I'll give you one reminder, and it closes typically a week after I send them out. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. With that, I will stop the recording right now.